Welcome to Shiftology Live, folks, the podcast where we explore the power of shift in mindset, energy, health, and business. I'm your host, Terry Wildemann, and I help entrepreneurs and leaders to align with their intuition and practical strategies so that they can thrive from the inside out. Each week, we'll dive into thought provoking conversations, real world insights, and inspiring stories designed to help you shift your perspective, unlock your potential, and create success with purpose and ease. Get ready to step into your brilliance because when you shift, everything changes. Today, I have an amazing guest, someone who I'm proud to call friend, and her name is Kerry George. Kerry is a distinguished business leader and influential networker. Currently, she's serving as the CEO of CIBN Connect with over 15 years of experience. She has dedicated her career to enhancing the lives of entrepreneurs, my favorite target group, through strategic networking and mastermind sessions. She has facilitated more than 8,000, listen to this, folks, 8,000 networking meetings and 2,000 brainstorming strategy sessions. You think she knows what she's talking about? Yeah. Carrie is excited by opportunities to foster genuine connections that enhance business outcomes, innovative training methods that drive financial success for entrepreneurs, and witnessing this is my favorite part witnessing transformational growth in her clients as they achieve their financial goals. Welcome to Shiftology Live, my dear friend Carrie.
It's great to be here. I'm so excited.
Carrie, here's what I know about you. You love changing the world. You love working with people to make them better, and we said in your bio, create the transformation that sometimes they don't even see for themselves because they've gotten themselves in such a spiral. So tell me, what do you mean by you're a world changer and a mentor to world changers?
Well, I do love to see the difference in business owners as they get started with us and, as they carry on in their journey. And it is a journey, right? And I guess that's what I mean is taking people through that journey and having them just put one foot in front of the other and keep going and track their progress so they can see that, hey, I am making progress.
Yeah,
Because changing the world is changing one person, one step at a time.
that's
And
exactly right.
when that person can actually look back and go, oh, that's where I started, and this is where I am now, I mean, for them, their world is changed.
It is. And isn't it true that it really is one person at a time?
Yeah, and everyone's in a different place in their journey. CIBN, we always talk about the networking journey. We have a networking success path, and we know that sometimes people come along and they're at the beginning of their business career. Maybe they just left their job, they just went into this business. You've got that person who's like a newbie at it, and they're just cutting their teeth and determining how they're going to become an entrepreneur. And then you have somebody who has been on the journey for a while. They come in and they've been running a business for 3 years or 5 years, and they already have a certain amount of money that's coming in monthly, and they're on a trajectory already. And to them, if they could grow by 10% or 20% this year, that would be awesome. That's what they're looking for. And then you've got somebody, I mean, they've been going along and they've been struggling for a while, and maybe it's the coach that has like 3 clients paying them $1,000 a month and making $3,000, but they really need to make six. They got to figure out how they're going to double that, you know? So you got that person. And then you got somebody who comes along and they've got like 3 locations that they own, and they've got they've got a more structured business. They've got employees. So at CIBN, we deal with all these kinds of businesses. It's a lot of fun, a lot of moving parts. But it's every person is at a different place in those journeys, yet they're all on this journey, right? So they have some similarities as well. They have some common needs, but they also have different places where they are in the process.
So I love being a member of full transparency, folks. I'm a member of CIBN and I have been for about almost 2 years now, I think. And I know I love how you support me. We support each other. in different things. So it is a very, very supportive organization. Now let's get into the personal side for just a moment. What has been your most meaningful career or life achievement up to date?
My most meaningful life achievement, my goodness. I think being a grandmother is my most meaningful life achievement. Honestly,
Tell me more.
raising kids and then seeing kids have kids, man, it's you hear these jokes about, we should have just started with grandchildren instead of having kids.
I
I
absolutely
have to
love it.
agree.
Well,
It gives you a different perspective, Terry. You like, I think when you're a mom and you get started in life, your perspective is on the family and the kids that you're raising and paying the bills and just kind of keeping things going in the household and getting kids off to soccer practice and all this stuff consumes you. And for me, I was running a business at the same time. But when you fast forward then into the years that I'm in now, where I have a grandson, you look at the world differently. You know,
Mhm.
I look at the world at like, what kind of a world am I leaving behind? And how can I impact the world? How can I make a difference? And it's like everybody's kid becomes my kid. I'm like watching through a different lens now. It's like, you're thinking about that next generation
Yeah.
and what are we bringing them into? And for me, that's powerful. It drives me.
Wouldn't it be wonderful, Carrie? And this is just the two of us having this conversation. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we started our business with that perspective?
It makes me think about my business for the next 50 and 100 years rather than just looking at my business for the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah,
It changes everything when you become a grandma, I think.
it does. I'm not there yet. However, I know that the idea of being a grandparent and leaving a legacy business, which a lot of us talk about, your business being your legacy. What if we didn't wait to be a grandparent and instead we chose now to have that perspective? What would happen to business if we did that?
I love that. We put on an event every 3 months called Quarter Launch, where we help people to project their next 90 days. And we always start Quarter Launch with getting them to think about what their life goal is. Like, what is the big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG that you want to leave behind? What's the dash going to be on your cemetery epitaph? Like, like what is the thing you're going to be known for that you're leaving behind? And I've been doing that for years before I had a grandchild, and so it's exciting today because we've positioned ourselves for the future and had that longevity in thinking, and it really does give you a different perspective than I'm just trying to make it through for the next 90 days, or I'm just trying to figure out how to put bread on the table this month.
It does. It to me, and I've participated in those sessions with you and the folks that are members of CIBN, and they are really a lot of fun. And what I know is and it's what I teach in my own programs. It is so important to look at life and business from the 30,000 foot view and at sea level because it gives you both give you such different perspectives. And when you merge them, you really are integrating the practical, tactical, logical with the emotional, the energetic, the spiritual, and the intuitive. And that's something that you do very well, which I take my hat off to you because it really is important that we take that 360 look. And a lot of what I know, unfortunately, having been a coach for 25, certified coach for 25 years, is it always seems that people don't go there until they have a huge shift in their lives. And so I'm curious, and I call it the shift. What does when you hear me say the word shift, because you've had a lot of shifts in your life, and I know that. When you hear me say the word shift, what comes up for you?
I was thinking about this because I know that that's your take on it. Like it's always about the shift and where have you shifted. And over the last week, as I was preparing for this interview, I was thinking about all the shifts that we've had And, there's been many in my lifetime, but even in CIBN, we started 15 years ago, which means there was some shifts. There was a shift, first of all, to start that business and to really just leave what I was doing before. I had been a pastor for 15 years, so I had to do this shift into, becoming a business owner and then becoming an entrepreneur and a mentor. So there's that shift. But then there were things along the way that happened, and I think that we often have these knee-jerk reactions that cause, the shift in our life because something happens in life. And for me, in the start of the business, in the first couple of years, things didn't go that well. I had some severe financial problems, like we're talking huge. Okay, lost my house, and that was a shift. I mean, I had to figure out how to dig myself out of that hole and keep going. But that wasn't the last shift that there was. As time went on, there were other shifts. My daughter came home pregnant at 15 years old. Okay, that was a shift.
Mhm.
Things had to change in our business in order for me to accommodate helping my daughter, with her son, where I became a grandma. Okay. And I'm so glad that we did that and supported her because, it caused a shift in my whole life and my way I think. And that was the beginning of something. My son Zachariah had been with me in the first 5 years of running CIBN, and we were doing everything together. And he was a young man coming into himself, and then he had a life-changing experience where he met somebody and wanted to move to another city across the country, and that was a shift in the business. And I had to learn how to, like, we'd been doing everything together and we had two people like just going hard, and now I had one, and I had to make this shift, to accommodate that. And then there was a new man in my life during this time. There was a shift for that. And Francois, has become my partner in life and an amazing contribution to CIBN and working tirelessly behind the scenes. So then there were two again, So all these shifts happen. And then, of course, 2020, oh my goodness, and that happened to so many people around the world in one way or another. Your life, your business, everything shifted in 2020. That was also true for us. We were doing like about 500 in-person events a year, mostly out of one city. We'd already prepared to go online, and we were doing online groups and stuff since 2019, but we were not prepared to take our business, which was doing thousands and thousands of dollars a month, in revenue. Suddenly, all that was slashed away in an instant. It was gone because it was all based off of in-person events. And we did this nosedive in revenue, like in a matter of days. And we were scrambling to figure out how to turn this into online revenue, like right now. It has to be done right now. Our plan was to do this gradually. There was not going to be any stress. We were working on it, slowly and putting the pieces together. And all of a sudden, slow was out of the question. We had to do it like right now. And I remember in like March, April of 2020, I had built myself a business that was pretty stress free. And all of a sudden, there was stress. There was huge stress because everything had been wiped away in an instant, and we had to recreate ourselves like right now. And we did that, and it was crazy time. Like, it was like we were back to 60, 80 hours a week. That 3 months around there, April, May, June into July of that year, it was absolutely intense, pedal to the metal, had to figure it out, took huge chances and risks to be able to accomplish what we did. And we managed to do it.
Of course
And I
you
just look
did.
back. I just look back today and go, oh my God, what a crazy time that was. And then it took another 2 years to rebuild the systems and get things kind of manageable again to create a
Yeah.
business. But today it is so different of a business than what it was in 2019. And I'm just so thankful and so grateful for the ability to make those shifts and just to keep going and being that beacon of hope for, so many of our business owners that were on board with us. And I'm just so grateful today. So many have stayed with us. We have members who've been with us for 15 years,
Wow.
right from our inception, who have watched our growth and development, and we were right there at the same time that we were pulling ourselves out of the hole. We were grabbing them by the hand and pulling them up with us, saying, come on, you can do it. And they're still, running businesses and with us to this day. So I would say that has also been a very big celebration for us that we've been able to do that and see the growth in them. And of course, many others now, thousands a year are coming in across the globe. USA is our largest market today, and we're a Canadian company, so that's like awesome. Canada is number 2, and we have a very strong following in the UK and about 27 other countries on board, over 80,000 followers on Meetup alone, and there's just more coming. So it's been an amazing ride. So excited.
So, with all of that happened in 2020, and what was the one thing that stands out for you the most that as a big lesson?
Be willing to adjust. Be ready to have a plan B to a plan Z. I think focus has really kept me in that place. I don't get distracted. I watch for distractions. I know what distraction looks like. And I have said many times that the key to success, and there's no success guru anywhere in the world who say the key to success is distraction. Okay. Yeah. The key to success is focus. And if I could say a second one, it's discipline to stay on the focus, And for me, during those hard times, you had to dig right in with focus and go, this is it. We burned the ships years ago. There's no turning back. When we hit the shores with CIBN, we were not looking for something else that was going to come and bail us out. There is no plan beyond that. Okay. CIBN Connect is the company. All right. That's what we've been watching, building and watching and growing and doing for these 15 years. But the method by which we get there, there's many plan B's, C's, all the way to Z. Because we're just not going to quit, right? We've seen the difference that we've made in other people's lives. It's a driving force. We're not going to give up on that. And we're just moving forward, putting one foot in front of the other, no matter what happens.
So I'm curious, Kerry, as a pastor, what role has intuition, inner wisdom, or spirituality played in that shift?
Oh, wow. What an intense question. Well, yes, I love God. And, sometimes people have asked me, did you quit being a pastor? And, no, not really, because the tribe changed, the congregation changed. But building teams and growing groups of people and nurturing others is just part of my genetic DNA. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's just who I am. And so I never really left that kind of work. And how does intuition play into it? Well, for those that are Bible believers, there's a scripture that talks about how, you can be a pastor, a prophet, an evangelist, apostle. And all of those things require intuition, really. You're tapping into that part where you listen, okay? You listen to God. You listen. And if you don't believe in God, you at least listen. Open your ears up and listen. Take a moment and breathe and listen, even to your own inner intuition. For me, I feel very direct connection to God that didn't go away when I feel like I didn't stop being a pastor, just kind of changed forms. But I like to listen. And when I'm talking to people and their problems, I ask lots of questions and I listen. And I listen inside of myself, and I like to hear is God weighing in on this? Do I feel that he's speaking into this? And you don't get that insight unless you stop, ask questions, and take a moment to listen. If you're always jumping in there with your best idea, let's fix this like this. Let's be Mr. Fix It. You're missing some quiet nuance, something that was powerful that if you had heard it,
Mhm.
the direction you take might be different,
Yeah.
right? Because we all have our structured, this is the answer to this problem I solve, and this is the answer to this problem I solve. And we kind of create these, structures of how we're going to respond. But I think when you listen, that quiet, still quiet voice will direct you to something you might have missed. And when you respond to that, that's where these epiphany moments happen. That's where there is a real shift, because you're responding to something that was just, it was quiet, it was subtle, but it was so important. And you miss it if you don't listen. So I'm a huge advocate of just thinking quietly and thinking about it and pausing, sometimes not making a decision instantly, you know? Even last
That's a
night,
big
I
one.
faced something where someone tried to force a big decision instantly, and I went, I'm going to go sleep on that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just listen to God on that for a minute before I respond to that, because I feel it's too important to just rush right into making an answer. And sometimes also when you pause and wait, the answer might be more like it might just come out of nowhere,
Comes out of nowhere.
and
Yeah.
it's a problem solved, and which actually happened by this morning. The problem was gone.
There you
So thank
go.
goodness I didn't respond to the crazy that was being trying to shove down my throat last night.
Doesn't that happen to us every once in a while?
Mm-hmm. And in business, it happens a lot. When I'm dealing with business owners, like I often don't meet with business owners on Monday morning. I make it a point not to. And why is that? Because they put out fires Monday morning. They take the weekend off. They come back into their office, and there's 16 emails that they weren't expecting, and they're hitting them right in the face with customers making demands, suppliers who can't supply, staff that's not showing up. You know, all kinds of problems that is suddenly thrust upon them, and they're having knee-jerk reactions. That's not a good time to have a meeting with them, right?
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's Mondays can be it really depends on the individual, because I know for some folks Mondays are the day that they take off from doing all kinds, they focus on the back end of their business, and
Yes.
so they
And if
take a
they've
due day to
created
be able to do that.
systems, yeah, if they've created systems already in their business, that's a possibility for them.
Yeah,
But many business owners have never created systems, and
that's
they're
right.
still operating on that knee-jerk reaction and
Yep.
putting out a fire on Monday morning. And I have found in dealing with them and being aware of that, it's given me the opportunity to have wisdom in that spot instead of, you know, reacting to the fire.
Yes. Understood. Understood. So, I love starting my questions with I'm curious. So I'm curious, Kerry. I know that you have a team behind you. How has your role changed as you've created this business from when you first started to where you are now?
Well, like most business owners that bootstrap their businesses, when we got started, we were doing everything hands on. So every job, in the business I have done. Okay. And some crazy ones. I mean, I've done stuff like cook breakfast for breakfast clubs because we couldn't have caterers show up on time with food that wasn't nasty within 20 minutes.
Okay, now.
We've run over 500, in meetings a year that are online meetings, but we've also done it in person. So we've got all kinds of different things that I've done over the years. And, in business owners, as you start with doing your own book, and you start by, being your own face of the business. And maybe I was a marketing expert right when I started. So guess who did the marketing? Like 100% for a few years as we got going, right? So today, my business has shifted a lot. And we are, in a completely different place than we were. We have teams of people. I have Joshua as general manager. He does a lot of work with CIBN. He does a lot of, his face is the front for most of the groups. He oversees a lot of the projects that are even going on behind the scenes. I have Francois, my husband, runs all the video stuff. and oversees all the video things and runs the YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff. So we have different people that fill different roles. We've got a few people that are members that run some of the groups that do, things like that. I've got VAs, but even this year I had to do another big shift because this early this spring I was diagnosed with cancer. I had breast cancer and had to go through 6 months of chemo. So that again was a tremendous shift and changed my roles within my company. I suddenly had to step back from things, and in some ways it was good because there were things I knew I needed to be stepping back from for the last couple of years. But sometimes the things that you enjoy, you don't want to step back from, you know.
Yeah.
So I really needed to do that, and so it kind of forced my hand. And today the company's stronger because of it, because it's no longer just me running everything.
Isn't it amazing how often those of us who are CEOs think we need to do everything?
Yeah, well, and over the years you got to learn to relinquish control.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do everything, you're never going to grow big because you can't, because it's only you and you only got 24 hours in a day and you're going to run out of time. And you have to become a good delegator. And that also means that you need to be able to let go and let others do what you've assigned them to do. The only thing that you need to check is if it got done. You don't need to check how they did it. Because if it's getting done and it's being done well and it's being done with integrity, I've learned that it's none of my business how it gets done.
Congratulations, because so many managers, CEOs, professionals who are in the management level, because they've done it before, they know how much time it takes, they know what's involved in doing the task, and they know what outcomes they want. When they delegate it, the person who's doing it may do it differently. The outcome will be the same, but because they're doing it differently, they don't know what to do with that. It's like,
Right.
let go. This is what you
It's a
hired this
hard thing
person
to
for.
accept.
Do what?
It's a hard thing to accept.
It
And for
is.
me, like, I often train people on how to do things, and I train my staff and team as well on how to do things. And of course, I run training on how to do things as entrepreneurs. So it can be a difficult thing to accept that somebody's doing it in a way that's different than you. And I've learned that I have to let go and just let God or let them take the role. When you give somebody a role and you ask them to do something, you can't take it away from them or completely be sticking your fingers back in there and mucking with it, because it undermines their confidence to continue on in the task. And so, a better way is to give them what the job needs to be done, give them the deadline and wait to see if it gets done on the deadline. Now, if it doesn't get done on the deadline, you can step in and retrain and, re-give a deadline.
Mhm.
But you got to keep your fingers out of it until that deadline, even if you can see they're doing it different than I would do it. And it's so frustrating, you know?
Yeah.
It's theirs. It's their job, right? And it's no longer your job if you gave the job away. And you got to be able to receive that and accept that and let them bloom and blossom.
So, is that part of your perspective when it comes to intuitive or soul aligned leadership?
Yeah, partially. I mean, it's part of that listening concept and stepping back and in this case also watching, how are they doing? And sometimes I watch somebody do something, I think that's going to fail. That's not good. But they need to figure it out for themselves, right? And if I step in and rescue them all the time, then they're not going to figure it out for themselves. So, I have to think about, okay, is it okay to let them have that failure right now? Sometimes the timing of it isn't good. I mean, if I'm coming into a summit that's got a deadline and I'm watching somebody fail, I may have to step in earlier because there's a deadline and it's going to
Right.
affect a lot of other people rather than just them, right?
Mhm.
But oftentimes, you got to think about, is this a hill in the battle that you're willing to die on, or is this just this is a battle they need to
Yeah.
learn from, right?
And
And
isn't
and if
it similar to
it's a learning
parenting?
experience. Yeah, exactly. If it's a learning experience, it's better for them to have the experience because then they are going to remember the lesson. Some people learn from other people's mistakes, but very few of us.
Yeah.
And that's the wise way of doing it. But many people have to burn the ship down themselves to realize what caused it.
And I mean, I'm going to go back to the parenting piece because in the very beginning of the podcast, we were talking about, the different things that we do in terms of parenting and leadership. And this is the same thing. If we're going to be helicopter leaders, do we really allow people to grow? Just like being a helicopter parent. So many parents are scared to death to allow their child to fail, when in fact that failure is exactly what the child needs in order to be able to learn. It's the same thing for our employees. It's the same thing for our vendors. It's the same thing for all of the people associated with business. And it's about knowing when to let them uh, learn and when to step in where it doesn't affect too many people.
Right? I mean, there are sometimes if it's going to affect a lot of people, you got to do something. But
Yeah.
the reality is, I don't believe in helicopter leadership. I don't think really that is leadership. And I think if you're really going to be a leader, one of the things you need to do is look behind and see if you got followers. Because if you don't have any, you're not a leader.
There you go. Oh, I love
It's
that.
something else.
Yeah. So, if you could describe the biggest challenge that you've had as an entrepreneur, other than 2020, because we know that was hard for everybody, um, what would it be?
I think with many business owners, one of the things that takes them out, like 80% of businesses fail in their first 5 years. And there's so many mistakes along the way that can cause that. But I think really fear is the biggest one.
Mm.
It's fear in so many forms. But when things are not going well, people respond to that in different ways. They let their emotions overwhelm them, and I think just not responding to the emotion of fear, recognizing what it is. For example, you're new in business, you're going along, things are good, and then you lose a couple of clients, and all of a sudden there's a financial crunch. Okay, how people respond to this is so different. Like each some people are like myself, I'm driven. When I hear that something like that's happened, I'm like, oh my goodness, we better go do something right now to make up that revenue. And I start looking at how can I make up that revenue? What are some of our choices? What kind of a special can I put on? What could I run out to the email list? What could I, and I'm looking for solutions, that we can do this in this many days and make up the difference. But what I have seen over the years is I've watched entrepreneurs is when bad things happen like that, so many of them buckle under fear and they have this knee-jerk reaction and kind of go into like the fetal position, and they can't move because they're so worried about what's going to happen if they don't make the money in time. And it's fear that drives their decisions. And in many cases, when you talk about 80% of businesses failing, it's because they go get a job. It's because they quit, they give up. They're like, oh my gosh, this scary thing is looming before me. And how I need to fix that is I need to go work for somebody else and get a paycheck. You know, for me, how I responded to that fear was always the difference. I always saw that as a challenge that needs to be met, faced head on, and we're looking for solutions, and nothing else will do. I'm not interested in excuses at that moment.
There you go.
I'm not interested in things that didn't work in the past.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to what has worked in the past. What can we do quickly? And let's all go to work on it right now and get this done, because there is no choice. We're getting it done and move forward one step at a time. No room for fear to interrupt us.
And there's all different kinds of fears. As a
Oh,
holistic practitioner, I work with entrepreneurs to help them clear the emotional baggage that holds them back from crossing the finish line. And some of those fears are fear of being visible, fear of not being good enough, the imposter syndrome. How many of us have dealt with that over the years?
and
With the
fear of
imposter
succeeding.
fear of
So
success is huge.
they actually sabotage themselves because they're afraid of their success. So you're right. There's so many levels of fear.
There are. And fear of success is the same coin as fear of failure. They are almost the exact same thing on different side of the same coin. And so if you feel if you have a fear of failure or fear of success, it's the same thing. Because and it's about acknowledging it. When you acknowledging it and you can really look at it straight on, like what is at the core of that fear? What is it that is triggering me so deeply? Then you get to a place that you can move forward, clear it out. There's so many different tools that we can use to dissolve the fears today. But it's acknowledging that the fear is there to begin with. So many folks run away from the fear because they're too scared to look at it face on. They're petrified of it. So I'm curious, Kerry, when you run up against folks like that, and I do it all the time because that is what I do in helping people, clear that level. What is it that you do to help them?
I have a few high ticket consultancy gigs that I do every year as well, where I help people, grow their business, and particularly those in the membership and subscription based businesses. And when I'm working with high level clients, this comes up even more than it does, with members and stuff. I might comment on it in a members session or in the goal setting session or something like that. But when I'm working with somebody intensely, sometimes this comes up. And the thing that makes me think of it is patterns. I watch for patterns. And in myself, I've learned to watch for patterns as well. So if you keep running up against the same kind of problem, it keeps coming up, periodically over the year or over the years past, you see yourself doing this thing that you've done before. That's where I go, whoa, whoa, stop the bus. What was that? I did it here. I did it there. I did it 5 years ago. I think of 3 different instances. Yeah, I've definitely done that. And I sit back, I think, where else have I done that? I'm like, oh my goodness, I've done it here. I start
Mhm.
counting up, oh my goodness, this is definitely a pattern. So, what is causing this pattern? What's the root? Where did it start? And I try to go back to the beginning, like the earliest time I can think of where I maybe did this thing, right? And I start thinking, what caused me to do that? And now that I know I have a pattern, I know to recognize it.
Yeah.
What would be a different way of responding to this? What would be a more positive way? What would be better to have a better outcome? And if I can't figure it out myself, I go, I do some jawing with somebody. I get together with someone like you, Terry, and I say, I see this pattern, or I get together with one of my mentors, or maybe in one of the mastermind groups, where I got a few people, I'll bring it up and say, look, can I see this pattern? What do you think could be causing this pattern? Because I have some ideas, but I want to get some feedback from some other people.
Yeah.
And I want to get some feedback on how do we break this pattern? How do we stop this from happening? Because we don't want it to go on anymore. We're going to continue to fail if we don't acknowledge it
Yeah.
and then make a different plan and enact the plan. So let's make a plan. And then we go and try something different, and we watch the data and see what happens and see if it makes a change. And if it makes a change, now we want to catch ourselves every time we enter into that pattern. And if it doesn't make a change, we're going to try something else.
There you go. There you go.
We keep trying to make a change because we can see the pattern is destructive. It's
Mhm.
not winning the war.
And isn't
Okay.
it important from an accountability perspective? And this is what we do in my Shiftology Accountability Mastermind too, is we hold each other accountable to these patterns. I get in and clear out the emotions, but still it's making sure the behavior isn't there. And isn't it important to have a buddy or to have somebody who will hold you accountable to shifting those patterns?
Absolutely. And just even see things that you don't. This is one of the reasons why we hire coaches. Okay. That's the job of a coach or a mentor. It's so that they see things that we don't see, or maybe they bring it to our awareness of stuff that we do see, but we don't want to acknowledge.
Yep,
Right. And I think
absolutely.
a coach or a mentor is really doing a great job when they can point out something that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it's
You know,
interesting
I
because,
think that's really fun.
well, what's funny?
Well, I think it's funny because I meet people who say, you're not the mentor for me because you make me uncomfortable. I think Yeah, they have an opinion that if it doesn't make me feel good, if I don't feel in alignment with what you're saying, it must be off. And my approach to that is absolutely opposite. If you're not making me uncomfortable and stretching me as a human being or as a business owner,
Yeah.
then I don't want you as a coach or a mentor because you're not being effective. You should
You
make
know,
me.
you're 5,000% spot on with that because I'm a coach's coach. And what I love are it just when and I'm being saying love in quotes on this one, when I'm working with a coach who thinks so highly of themselves that when you hold the mirror up, they digress. Not digress, they deflect and go to a place of, well, blah, 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 blah. Whoa, listen to what I just said. Listen to what I just mirrored to you. Take a breath because that's what you hired me for. And you're absolutely right. They don't want to hear it. And I want a coach that's going to hold me accountable. I'm sure as heck going to hold my client accountable to that. And I'm going to go into full transparency here. In 19, when was it? We moved up here in 1995. I guess it was about 1993. I learned about the disc behavioral profiles. Okay. And I went to listen to the speaker at the local community college introduce this communication language, and I was intrigued. Oh my gosh, I was so intrigued. And she produced my report. So I was sitting in the den. I just put my kids to bed. They were 4 and 1. My husband was deployed. And I'm sitting there in my big green fluffy chair, reading this report, going, "That's not me. That's not me. That's not me. Oh, that's me. Okay, yeah, I'll take." So everything I liked, of course, it was me. It was great. Everything I
I thought it
did
was
like,
multiple choice where you could pick the ones you want.
yeah, yeah. And so I'm reading all this stuff, going, "That's not me. That's not me." So I put it aside. And about 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, I picked up the report again and I started reading it. And I sat there going, "Oh dear God, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this." All the things I said that I didn't like about myself, I had done. And that's part of the awareness process, Carrie, that you were talking about. When we are aware of the patterns within ourselves that we don't like, we have a choice to either give our power away to it or to choose to change it. And I don't like to use the
Yeah,
word fix it because I don't feel like we're broken. All of these things
yeah, I
come
would
to us
agree.
to teach us and grow to be the better version of ourselves in this lifetime. And so I got certified in DISC a couple years later because I knew it was something I needed to work with my entrepreneurial leaders. And you are so spot on that those patterns are so important for us to be present in the moment and identify them. But we're too often,
Yeah.
sometimes we're too scared to. And a lot of those patterns, by the way, come from our environment when we were growing up. And those patterns are set in stone after under the age of 5. And so
Yes.
once we get rid of those patterns, people say to me, "Oh my gosh, I feel so light." Well, there's a reason for that. You've been carrying it around for 50 years for crying out loud. You know?
Yep, and the burden is lifted. Yeah, and you're talking about something really important there. When you understand like DISC, or there's so many different ways that we can work on ourselves, and the DISC
MBTI,
assessment.
human design, there's all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, I mean, you can get into your love languages and you can get in, like, there's so many different things that you can work on. But it's not just about working on yourself and changing yourself, as you said. It's not really changing because you are who you are and you have this personality. It's about adapting to the needs of others and
Yes.
responding to what it is that, that causes them to respond to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And being aware not just of you and how your most natural inclination is to respond in this moment because that's your personality type, or because that's your love language, or because, this is, or because of Mars and Venus. Okay. And I'm a woman or a man. Okay. There's all of that, that we can kind of say, okay, this is the general way that this type works. But the truth is, what we're trying to do is in the moment be more present with others and help them
Yes.
really relate to whatever it is that is going on. And the more we learn about this, we're learning about ourselves and how we are going to respond, but we're also learning on what it's going to take to help them. And I love all that stuff. It's very, I think, very progressive to be growing as a human being, because now we're bringing real solutions to
Mhm.
people as we're being able to see quickly, okay, this is how we can help them adapt.
And it's also important that using all of those tools, that we recognize not to use them as a crutch. For example, I have a colleague who is an astrologer, and we'll be talking about something. Oh, that's the way I am because I'm a Capricorn. Oh, it drives me to distraction. It's like, how does that, how's it going for you? How's that working for you? Is
I
that
love
really
that question. I use that a lot with my clients and with members too. I'm like, oh, awesome. How's that working for you?
exactly?
And I just pause and wait for them to answer. I wait for them to actually think about it for a minute and come back with something that usually kind of takes them a second, and then they kind of chuckle and they go, oh, I guess it's not.
Well,
Right?
one of the things that we also that based on all this where we're at in our conversation is recently I had a conversation with somebody who's in the medical field, and this specific person decided that they wanted to get into a different area of medicine because of a traumatic experience that they had in the other area of medicine. And one of the things that kept coming up for me was that the other area of medicine is where they were really meant to be. This is the intuitive side of myself. And I happened to ask this person, what is stopping you from even taking another look at that? And she's like, well, because of what I went through, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, what if you cleared it all out? What if you helped to heal the trauma around that? She says, oh, no, 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 I don't want to let go of it. Why? And how is that serving you?
Hello.
Is that making you feel better? And she just sort of stood there like, oh, I said, why do you want to hold on to that pain so tightly? And that's something that I think all of us would do well to look at is when there's a pain piece, whether it's in business, we keep losing clients, and we go into pain, what is the pattern there that is taking us to that behavior? What's the vibration? What's the energy behind all of that? Because there is energy. Everything is energy, from the phone to the computer to the toilet paper roll to to the spoon. I have a spoon in my hand. To the spoon. All of it is energy. So our thoughts are such powerful energy centers. And if we keep saying to ourselves, I'm going to hold on to that pain when it comes to business and relationships and connections and vendors and employees or whatever, how does that serve us and how does it serve them?
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It
Mm-mm.
absolutely doesn't. So that's
That's a
all
good
part of the
question to
shift.
ask ourselves in so many parts of business. When something's not working well, take a good look at it and go, how is that serving me? I mean, that's a great question because we hang on to all kinds of things. It's not just
Yeah,
something to do emotionally. In business, we get used to doing things the way that we do them, and then we hit a glass ceiling. We're not growing, not making more money, or not getting to the place where we can hire the virtual assistant, or
that's
something that
right.
just keeps you at the same wall. It's time to stop and go, wait,
What's going on
what's going
here?
on? What is not serving me in this scenario? What could I be doing differently?
What do I want? Okay, I'm going to rephrase that. What am I to do differently? Instead of the could or the should, What am I to do differently? That's a whole different energy there, isn't it?
And what am I willing to give up?
Yes. Yes.
Because many times the thing that is actually holding you back right there, it's control.
Mm,
You think that you're in control by hanging on to this way that you do it,
yeah.
or this procedure that you have, or this, just I've been doing it for this many years this way and I know what I'm doing. Well, do you? Why do you keep hitting the same ceiling?
That's the pattern. So what is the pattern? That's
Yeah.
that's about being aware of the pattern that puts me there. You're absolutely spot on, Carrie. Absolutely
And
spot
then
on.
I got to give something up. And in some cases, I got to give up control. If I really want to be able to do more things, I got to let somebody else do this. And they're going to do it differently. And oh my gosh, that's going to be painful to watch. If I have to give up control, that's hard.
It is. It is. So, Carrie, what I know about you is that you're very giving. And I know you have um, a couple gifts that we talked about. I didn't know which one you were going to offer today. One of the things that you've written is a book called Smart Networking. And the other thing is another product called Outwitting the Wolves. I love that. Can you tell us about both of them and which one are you going to offer the Shiftology Live listeners today?
Well, yeah, I do have on our website, CIBNconnect.com, you can actually go there and get Outwitting the Wolves, which is it's a little PDF that you can download. But the thing that I like to, and it will help you, it's like 18 pages and it's kind of cool and kind of fun because we're talking this language of, all the things that business owners come up against and you can, outwit the wolves. But really, that's a piece of a larger project, which was a book we wrote called Smart Networking, the $150,000 Method.
Mhm.
And, you know, that's really what I would love to share with people today. I'm going to put it into the chat. And I don't know if you can bring this up or maybe I can stick it into where
It's
my
right there.
name goes.
I'll make sure that it's at the bottom of wherever it is we
Yeah.
place it, it'll be added to the video.
Yeah. It's smartnetworking.com/smart hyphen networking. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's where you go to get the book. It's only $5. You can download the whole book. And you can learn how to network effectively. You can learn other aspects of business from the book. In chapter 6, we give you 5 different ways of doing an infomercial that converts into an appointment. The personality styles, by the way, is one of them. Just a
Aha.
heads up for curiosity. And it's very effective. It's when it's delivered well to a room, it can literally make people's hair on their neck stand up. It's very, very good. And another thing that's in the book that I really love to point out is in chapter 9, we actually go through the $150,000 strategy. And any business owner can take it and apply it. Doesn't matter what you do, what kind of business you are in. Doesn't matter if you're already doing $5 million a year or if you just got started yesterday and you haven't made your first $10 yet. Okay, so it will be applicable to every business owner for sure. Okay, so that's where I would recommend that you go and check that out. That's the thing. When I'm talking about focus and discipline, and we cover all of that in the book. We cover, things about goals. We cover things about, next steps in business and how to create sales processes. This is the beginner thing that you need, or the filler of steps you missed if you're not a beginner. Okay, lots of people think, I don't need that. I know how to network. If you're not making 150K a year, honey, you
Yeah.
don't know how to network. You think you do. So stop that and start doing it in a way that is effective. And dig into it and start applying these things and fill in the steps, the pieces that you missed along the way, because oftentimes it's not the big things that make the difference. It's the small details that have been missed or bypassed.
Like sending a thank you note.
Possibly. Yes, that can be a good one.
All right, well, Carrie, this was just absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. Usually we go 30 minutes. Here we are, almost an hour, and it was absolutely full of delightful information. Thank you so much for sharing your time. So, is there one last thing that you would like to leave with the audience, please?
Yeah. Um, one last thing. The one last thing here that I would like to share is focus. Okay. There are so many things that distract you as a business owner, and you need to become aware of them.
Yeah.
And one of the things that distracts you as a business owner is good ideas. We have so many of them.
Oh,
And when we go to networking, we're confronted with even more because we meet this guy who has this great idea for marketing this way, and we meet this other person who does it that way. And only if I had this and I had that, so I spent $10,000 here, and I take this course, and I don't even complete it, and I certainly don't, get in there and actually do the stuff that I learned. Okay, all of this is distraction. Okay, and distraction is not the key to success ever. What is the key to success is focus. Okay. And all these good ideas keep you away from the God idea. You're too busy doing the good ideas and you miss the really great one because you were going here and going there and going here and going there. Okay. You're like a squirrel with ADHD chasing bright lights. Focus and don't let anything take away your focus. Learn to recognize the distraction and say, I caught you, little distraction. Big distraction.
there you
No,
go.
I am not responding to that distraction. I'm going to stay focused. I decided I'm making this project happen. It's necessary for the next step of our evolution as a business. It is my job now to time block the time that is necessary to complete that project and to get it done.
There you go.
No distractions. The world does not need more starters, it needs finishers. So
Yes, it
finish
does.
what you start.
So, would you please share with everybody how they can connect with you?
Absolutely. CIBNConnect.com is our main website where you get the book. I've put it up where my name is there underneath me so they can see it.
Mhm.
And you can connect with me as well at kgeorge@cibnconnect.com is my email. So that's how you reach me. And that's how you find the network and the book. And I think that you will be very excited and transformed in your life and your business if you do reach out and find us.
Thank you so very much, Carrie. And I know I have read that book and it is absolutely brilliant. So I highly recommend everybody who is listening to, if you are a business owner or even a leader, a manager, or a professional, there's a lot of juicy tidbits in this book because networking is for everyone. No, you never know. I mean, yesterday I was at an Oktoberfest and I ended up networking with somebody and invited to an entrepreneur women's group locally that I didn't know about. So you never know where you're going to be networking. Always be prepared. So thank you everybody for joining me for this episode of Shiftology and Live, and thank you very much to Kerry George for being our guest today. And on this show, we explore the shifts that spark transformation in business, health, and life, and we certainly did that today. If today's conversation inspired you, please share it with someone who's ready to step into their own shift, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And visit me at intuitiveleadership.com to explore more tools, resources, and upcoming experiences like our Unlock the Power in You retreat, unlockthepowerinyou.com. Great destination retreat here in Newport, Rhode Island. Only for 12 people, folks. And it is a beautiful time of year, right? The first week in November. And all of it is designed to help you thrive from the inside out. Until next time, remember, when you shift, you open the door to what is truly possible, to your success.
Goodbye.